So, Founding Fuel just kicked off a fantastic new series called Meet the Author, and the first conversation is a big one. It's between host Shrinath V and Sangeet Paul Choudary, who wrote the book Reshuffle. And honestly, their discussion cuts right to the heart of one of the biggest questions we're all facing today. Are we using AI to actually win, or are we just using it to get a little bit better at a game we're about to lose?
The whole thing starts with Shrinath telling this really personal story. He was stuck on a project, totally blocked. So he decided to try out one of these AI tools, and he was just stunned. It wasn't just that it gave him an idea, it was that it filled in all these gaps he didn't even know were there. For him, this wasn't just some small productivity hack. It was a real fork-in-the-road moment, where he realized the entire landscape of knowledge work was shifting right under his feet.
And that story, it's not just about him, right? It perfectly sets the stage for the bigger picture. Because in a way, we're all standing at that exact same fork in the road, looking at these massive, systemic changes being driven by AI.
This is really where Sangeet Choudary's work comes in. He's not that interested in just listing all the cool things AI can do today. He's asking a much, much deeper question. What kind of world is AI building at a huge scale? And maybe more importantly, how do you and I navigate it? This simple shift takes us from looking at the tool to looking at the brand new world the tool is creating.
Okay, so if we're looking at this new world, what's the biggest mistake people are making? Well, Sangeet argues that most companies are walking right into this huge trap. And it's not what you'd think. It's not about ignoring AI. It's about using it completely the wrong way.
He calls this the old game trap, and it's a powerful idea. You know, history is just littered with companies that didn't go under because they missed a new technology. No, they failed because they used that new tech to become incredibly efficient at a game that was already obsolete. They just got better and better and better at playing yesterday's game, right up until the day they lost.
And this breakdown here really clarifies the problem. On the left, you've got the task-centric view. This is the trap. This is using AI to do the same old things, just a bit better, faster, or cheaper. You know, making your marketing department 40% more efficient. That's great, but it's incremental. On the right is the system-centric view. This is where the real winners are going to be. This is about stepping back and asking, how does AI let us completely reimagine our entire business, our industry, and the value we create from the ground up?
All right, so the system-centric thinking sounds good in theory, but what does it actually look like out in the real world? Sangeet gives a couple of brilliant examples that show exactly how entire industries get completely reshuffled when someone comes along and just changes the rules of the game.
So first up, think about Adobe. Now, they made a hugely successful jump to the cloud with Creative Cloud, right? They went from selling software in a box to subscriptions. But Sangeet points out that even in the cloud, their core logic, their entire way of thinking, was still built around the old game, the file. Everything, and I mean everything, revolved around creating, editing, and sharing a single, giant, monolithic file.
And then Figma came along. Because they were built for the cloud from day one, they didn't see the file. They saw all the little individual pieces inside the file. Their entire system was built around the idea of the element, a single button, an icon, a component. And here's the magic. Each tiny element could be worked on, collaborated on, and managed all by itself. And this is just a perfect example of that system-centric shift. See, Figma didn't just build a better tool for designers. They created a whole new business model. The value was no longer just in making the design, it was in governing the entire design system across a whole company. And suddenly, their customer wasn't just the designer anymore. It was the marketer, the developer, the project manager, the whole team. They completely changed the game, from execution to collaboration.
Okay, let's look at another one. Before TikTok showed up, the undisputed wisdom on Wall Street was pretty simple. You could not beat companies like Facebook or Instagram. Why? Because you could never beat their social graphs, that massive, entrenched network of friends and followers. It was this classic chicken and egg problem. You needed users to get users.
But TikTok, being an AI-first company, didn't even try to play the social graph game. Instead, they built a behavior graph. They didn't care who you knew. They only cared about what you did, what you watched, what you liked, what you skipped. By analyzing every single one of those interactions, their AI could build a ridiculously addictive feed for you instantly, without you having to follow a single person. They used AI to sidestep the old system's biggest barrier entirely. So yeah, these are powerful examples, but they all lead to that big so what question. Okay, the game is changing. What are we, as companies, as individuals, supposed to do about it? Let's get into the playbook.
For companies, Sangeet says the first step is to stop thinking about these little point solutions. You have to go back to first principles. You've got to ask, what is the fundamental logic of our industry, and how does AI blow it up? Then, audit everything you've got, your data, your knowledge, your people. Which of those things is AI about to make worthless, and which can be used in a totally new way? And crucially, you have to realize that industry lines are just dissolving. Your next competitor probably won't look anything like your last one.
All right, now let's talk about us as individuals. The real fear shouldn't be that an AI tool is going to take your specific job. The real threat is that AI will make your entire role irrelevant. Sangeet uses this brilliant analogy of the typist. You know, the word processor didn't get rid of the task of typing. Heck, we all type more than ever. What it did was eliminate the job of the typist because it made the cost of fixing mistakes practically zero. The job was never about typing, it was about managing the high cost of errors. The real danger isn't the tool, it's the whole system changing around you.
So what's your personal game plan? Well, it boils down to 3 things. First, you have to focus on what's scarce, the uniquely human skills that tech can't easily copy. Second, master coordination. The most valuable work always happens at the messy intersection of different teams and complex systems. That's where things always break down. And third, you have to actively take on valuable risk. You have to be the person who makes the critical judgments and tough decisions that an algorithm can't and will never be able to own.
And all of this, these shifts in business, these changes in our careers, it all brings us to one final critical question. Are you playing just to keep up, or are you actually playing to win? And this is the thought I really want to leave you with. Take a hard look at your company, at your own career. Is AI just a tool to help you do the old things a little bit faster? Or is it the disruptive force that's creating a massive opening for a new competitor, or maybe even a new version of you, to come in and completely rewrite the rules? Because the answer to that question is going to define everything in the next decade.